Muted.
And I'll be facilitating this webinar. This is our second webinar in the current partner webinar series, and I'm so excited to be a part of this. Our speaker for the day is Susan Clark, founder and CEO of Cornerstone Solutions, a Zoho Premium Partner and Zoho Certified Consultant. It has been 29 years since she founded this company, which was initially a training company and then became a consulting firm, helping clients define business processes and procedures, and then design a CRM database to reinforce those procedures, which, by the way, is their niche. Basically, they specialize in installing, deploying, coaching, and training users to only support the Zoho line of products. Before she begins the presentation, here are a couple of things I'd like you to know. We are recording this presentation for your benefit and are sending you a copy of this in a few days, along with any other resources mentioned during the course. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can raise your hand using the hand raise option you see on the screen, or you can also type them in the chat box. We have a team of support staff to answer your questions on chat during the presentation, and at the end, Susan will take some audio questions as well. Over to you, Susan.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar, no matter where you are. I'm hoping that you've had a really great start to your summer. But today we're going to be talking about another kind of hot, and that is your hottest prospects or your hottest deals and how you can leverage the new scoring feature that is in Zoho. As she said, we do have Michael actually is on the line. Michael George, I've known him for a long time, is a great Zoho support staff, and he'll be there to answer any technical questions that you have as well while we're presenting. I will try and answer some questions as I go, and then also I can answer them at the end of the webinar as well. So let's get started. Why would you even need scoring? That's the first thing. I think usually people who have too many leads to follow up or too many deals, you know, and we should all be that lucky. But I do run across quite a few people who just have a lot of leads from their website, or maybe there are leads from trade shows. There are just too many to follow up and not enough people or time for follow-up. So what they need is a system to prioritize using more objective values for how to score people, and not just because we like them or we felt like they might be a good risk. Those are certainly good values, and we want to be able to label our leads with hot, medium, and cold kinds of labels, but sometimes we need another more objective scoring capability as well. So the idea of scoring is that scores might tell you which prospects need nurture and which are ready to buy. So we'll actually differentiate between those two kinds of scoring as we go through the webinar. So what is scoring? That's why we need it. So let's talk about what it is. Scoring is a calculated value for a record. It's available for these four modules: the leads, the contacts, accounts, and deals, but no other modules. Unfortunately, no custom modules. It's only for these, and it is not available in the free edition. You must have a paid edition of Zoho to see the scoring feature. Scoring is set up by you. You determine which criteria that you want to set up, and criteria might be something like if the lead status field has the word contacted in it, then let's give it a score of 5. And then you'll start to build your score with other values of other things that you find out. You can have up to 25 rules are similar to this, like the lead status, contacted, but you can have up to 25 per module as you're designing your scoring system. So let's say you've got the scores. So then the next thing is, what do scores tell me about the records? So there's two kinds of scores in Zoho. The first one is, are they a good fit for us? So that's based on field values. So when we're setting up scores, the first way that you'll look at it is what fields are important to you. For instance, in deals, you might say if the deal amount is greater than a certain amount, or maybe it's important that you have clients in your area, so you could pick a state or a region, or maybe it's a drop-down field, so that things out of the region will not be a good score, but things in the region will have a better score. And then we joke about it internally. If their email contains AOL.com, but then we disagree. Some of us think, in our group, think, well, that should be a plus because they really need help if they have that older email. But and some of us think it's a minus because they won't be there. It's the technology thing. But regardless, you can make up your own criteria based on the fields. But beside the fields, Zoho has another way to include scoring. So it's like engagement scores, or touch points is what they're using as a category. So in other words, if we had an email or some campaigns, did they get it? Did they open it? Did they click it? Did it bounce? Those are, all valid ways of understanding is the client really engaging with us? Did we miss a call? Did they respond to a survey that I sent? You can even connect your account to Twitter or Facebook, and if somebody specifically mentions you or likes a post or something, then that will give you a score as well. So the idea is, again, you want this good fit. That are the fields, do they actually have values that make them a good fit client for you? And are they engaged with us? Have they contacted us back and forth? And then that makes them kind of ready, hopefully, to buy from us. So how hard is it to set up? It's actually very easy. You just click the tools icon, and we'll do this live in a few minutes, but I just kind of want to go over the basics here. You'll pick the tools icon and click Tools Setup, and then under Automation there is a Scoring Rules. And then once you get there, it will ask you which of the 4 modules do you want to create scoring rules for. So it's just as simple as that. Then you get started to set up the rules. When you do enable scores, Zoho adds a whole nother section right above notes inside of the record, and it will contain the scores that are calculated for this record. You can have positive scores, and you can have negative scores, like let's say if emails bounced or I missed calls or something like that. Then you can have touch point scores. I can have positive scores. They opened their email. Oh, that would be, and or a negative email. That would be where the email bounced. Over here, the negative score would be not email related. It'd be like a bad value. They're out of your area, and so they're not in a service area for you to work. So all of these scores are then added up. So this is, we got 20 positive, but 10 negative for this particular record. So that's a total of 10. So 20 minus 10 is 10. And then the positive score over here was 20 with no negative. So if I take the 10 and the 20, then their overall score is 30. So we can look at this in a second, but it's actually, pretty straightforward. So all we have to do is set it up. But not only do you see the scores at the bottom of the record, at the top of each record, you'll also see just to the right of this area what they call the business card at the top of the record. You'll see a score that's always being constantly updated. So it's nice to be able to see it there. And in addition to that, you can add score field values to any of your list views. So if I have a list view here and I'm looking at contacts and leads that I want to follow up with, then I can add these score fields here. I can add the negative, the positive, the touch point scores, whatever fields you want that are part of the score area. I'm going to go back for a second to show you. So remember, these score words right here, all of these are fields inside of Zoho. So it's easy to add those to any list view that you want so that you can better analyze what's going on. In addition, because they're fields inside of Zoho, you can click on them to, of course, to sort them numerically to bring your best scores to the top of the screen. So technically, pretty easy. But what you have to do to start with is define the parameters first. And that's really, I want to spend a little bit of time of talking about that as well, because that's actually the only hard part about it. Zoho actually makes everything pretty easy. So the actual setup works quite well. Getting started, what you have to kind of keep in mind is it's going to be trial and error. I don't think I've ever run across anybody who knows exactly what are the values of the perfect client. Some people have spent some time thinking about it, but even so, it's harder because even if you know, your system might not be prepared for documenting that. So you might start, I think probably the first thing to do is find the most detailed person in your own organization that's going to help you. Someone that will help you think through some things and someone that will help you get your database up to date, because most likely this will require some data update in your database. Even when I first started to do it, I'm thinking, okay, well, I've been doing databases for a long time. This won't be that hard. But I found a lot of areas where we hadn't been very good about filling in data. And it's because we didn't have a reason to. Now I see much more of a reason. I have a lot of application now of how this is going to help me make better decisions. So you're thinking about, you take your user and yourself and maybe somebody from your sales team and kind of think what makes these records high value. You don't have to implement for all modules. In fact, you might just want to implement for leads or start with leads, or maybe deals. That would be the second one I would deal with. And then maybe work with contacts, maybe not look at them as people who you would want to like convert, but maybe these are people that you want to nurture to make sure they have a repeat sales. And so your lead scores might be kind of set up a little bit differently. So while you're thinking about it, think about what your ideal targets are. That's actually a lot harder than you might think it would be, but however you decide, just start to develop criteria of what are good leads and deals and what do they have in common. So you can start with things that are built into Zoho, like lead status, industry, and lead score. Those, are really great, and they're actually not quite so bad. You might look at charts. Start by looking at charts in your dashboard. For instance, I've got two charts here. They're kind of fuzzy on the screen, but you don't need to know. This one is a leads by source, so I could see by lead source where I was getting my leads. And this big purple area here was from downloads. And so I thought, oh, that's what I really should evaluate my leads on. But then I did a sales by lead source, and that should be one of the charts that automatically ships with your Zoho dashboards. If not, it's a report that will show you how many closed won deals by lead source. And what it turned out was the web download over here was a very, very small portion. And this big turquoise area right here was my big lead source, and that was referrals. So lead source, even though referrals over here at the right was a very tiny one, I don't even know which one it is. It's pretty tiny though. It's a very tiny source to start with. In actually closing a deal, it becomes very important. And this was the other sad thing, is that the none, I had, I think it was like 40% of values where I'd never recorded a lead source. So we've cleaned that up a little bit. Same thing for industry. Industry turned out to be a much better predictor of how people would close or what we've done. People often ask me what industry we support, and I'm like, oh yeah, we support everything. And we do support a lot of people, but what we found out is that some areas stuck out pretty well for us, like particularly manufacturing and healthcare was much larger than we thought. But then again, look at I have a huge area of none where we hadn't recorded the industry for 44%. So it required that we kind of get caught up. So those are good fields to start with, and you can evaluate it. However, you probably want to use fields that are unique to your business, things that are going to be relevant to how you provide services, and that's where you'll need to spend some time thinking. In addition, if you are using industry or lead source, please update the pick list. The industry sources that come with Zoho, they're great for some technical areas, but they're probably not that great for you. Go through and think through industry lead sources. You can Google it. You can there's lots of ways to find ones. We just created ones that we work with all of our clients now because it's a really good standard, works for everybody kind of industry stores. But so clean it up first, and then you can go back through and update things. The lead source is the same way. Make sure that you have a really good lead sources that really kind of reflect where your leads are coming from. And actually, I keep that lead source to be a very small drop-down list, probably to less than 20 things. I don't, like if I go to a trade show, I don't put in the name of the trade show every time. I actually have a separate field called lead source specifics. It's just a text field so that I can keep lead source to trade show. And then I put what trade show in a separate field so I can see where I'm spending my money. Is it on trade shows? Is it on website? Is it on referrals? I have a high-level overview of how my leads are coming in. So I thought what we might do is look at a couple of examples of some things that you might think of. You're probably, just to kind of get you going, hopefully you'll come up with lots more. For instance, if you're in medical sales, maybe you'll have a deal amount is greater than a certain amount, or do they require a trial run? Maybe if they say yes, those are people that, are not good for us, and I'd get it at a -3. But maybe if people require a trial run, that would be a positive for you because once somebody commits to doing something, it takes some time. Then you can have like 3 separate rules. These would be 3 separate ones, not one rule. If the stage is demo held, then add 5. But then if it changes to proposal delivered, change the 5 to 6. These are not cumulative. It replaces because it's based on one stage. And then if the stage changes to negotiation, add +10. It's worth mentioning that when you're assigning scores, you can have a maximum of +10 and a minimum of -10. So that's your score range of what you're doing. But let's say maybe you're in real estate, and maybe you kind of look at if they have 3 or more bedrooms, that's a really good deal for us because they're more likely to close. Or if they're, again, another out of our area, if they're out of our area, maybe -5. Or are they working with an agent? If they're already working with an agent, maybe I want to give them a -4 because they're less likely to work with me. It's more trouble to convert them. But maybe their reason for contacting us is whatever. There's a series of reasons of why are they moving, or why am I using that? And you can assign several values. It doesn't have to be just one value. It's like if they're moving or relocating or whatever, it's +10, or need money, it's +10. Same thing for marketing. Do they have a current vendor? No, that gets 8 points. Do they have one? Yes, that gets a -1. Are they happy with their website? Did they complete a survey for me? There's lots of different things that you can do. No matter which area you want to pick. I give an example here of industry for manufacturing. You can just put a comma between the values, and if the industry is any of these, it'll still give you a value of 10. So once you do that, how would you get started? I mean, that's kind of the thinking part. So I think that it's best if you're keeping deals in your Zoho, then look at the list of deals, closed won deals, let's say for the last year, and see what you can figure out. If you're not keeping deals in Zoho, which and some people don't, then from your accounting package, print out a list of top accounts by total revenue and start to look at, is there any kind of commonality that you can find out? Are there any characteristics? Are there any trends? Sometimes when you see them all in a list, it's easier to figure out what they have in common. But regardless, start creating a list of fields. Just pick out the fields that are in there. Think about any missing fields you might consider. What made you, maybe the previous list of clients from your accounting system would make you think of some things that you should be tracking. You don't want to make it too many fields, but you really want to look for those key things that are really decision makers. And then if you want to, take this list and have employees rate. Are these important, or are they not important, or this is like really it's critical that this has to be in place? And then you can ask them to assign suggested scores and ask them about any missing fields. I think that then assign point values. Are they positive and negative? And so this is actually kind of hard too. You wouldn't think it would be. So the idea would be you could give 10 points to everything that has a positive score, but then actually there's no differentiation. So somebody who's in your area or out of your area, I don't know, it just doesn't add up well. So sometimes I've had a little exercise that we do to say, okay, any given, you can look at all of these values, any given client can only have 50 points. So if you had to go back and give a percentage to each of these points, you're not going to give too many of them 10 points, but you might give some of them 5, some of them 2, some of them 1, but your best client can't go over 50. And it kind of helps you kind of rethink what point values you should assign, and maybe not make the point value so great. The idea is not to get a lot of points, but to get the most important points. So use a worksheet to document your plan. I have something like this, and I'm hoping I'll send it out to you afterwards. It's several, like 8 pages, I think, of ideas on what you might do. So you would kind of fill this out with paper, because it's going to be a lot easier if you do it on paper first before you start to go to the website to put it in. So put in the field name, the industry contains or is, and then put in some values here, and then put in the points. And then we'll talk about the touch points in a minute, because that's a separate kind of worksheet as well. So once you've got it figured out here, once you've decided on it, then you have to go back and all those fields that I thought would be really, really great, you have to add them to Zoho CRM. Add the fields, and then get that person that you got at the beginning, get somebody to go back in and retroactively fill in the values. You know, sometimes salespeople will complain about it, you know, because you give them paperwork, but they should know their customers really well. If they would just take 30 minutes, it probably wouldn't even take that long to fill in the values for their best customers, and it should go pretty quickly. So you create the rule criteria, and you run the rules. So let's look at what that might look like. We'll switch to a live example. So again, you just do tool, setup, scoring, and pick the value. So let me switch over. Okay, so here I am in a Zoho account. It's actually mine. So the way you would start creating rules is you click on the tools, and you click on setup. And down here under automation, you click scoring rules. I've already got leads, so I'm just going to go to contacts for right now and kind of talk about how we might do it. So you can see I've got contact fields and some touch point fields. I want to really, when you're starting, you should really only do fields, I think, to start with. Add these a little bit over time, but let's just start with only focusing on fields. So I might add, let's say I have a lead source. And I just type in some part of the word, and I can pick it up. And I already told you that referrals were a big thing for me, so I'm just going to say if the lead source is referral, I'm going to add 10 points. That's a big indicator for me. So I'm going to click Save. I don't have to just keep with one. Remember, I can do 25 of these, so I'm going to add another one. I have a field called QMC, which stands for Quick Marketing Chat, and it's just it's a service that I have. It's a kind of a free service where I will offer a short amount of time to anybody just to kind of discuss their marketing, what they want to do, and we discuss whether Zoho will work for them or not. So if I find that if people spend the time to have a quick marketing chat, I'm going to give that 5 points. It's actually kind of an indicator, but sometimes it's an indicator that they just want to do it themselves, and they just want to find out whether it works for them. And I evaluate. This was an important thing for me to evaluate is, am I giving away too much time? So it was a good thing for me to include and to figure out whether it helped to move deals forward. So I'm going to click Save. So again, I can click more. I'm going to say, I'm going to add one other thing. One of the things that I have integrated with CRM is Zoho Sales IQ. So I could look at the visitor score. If you have it integrated, it's actually kind of nice. It evaluates how many times they've been to your website and have they clicked on things and downloaded things. And so I can say if the visitor score is greater than or equal to 200, we'll say, I'm going to give it an extra 3 points. So there's some examples of different kinds of ways that you could set it up. So once I've got my initial like trial example of how I'm going to do the fields, then you want to run the scoring rules. I'm not going to do that right now because it'll take a little bit for it to work because I've got quite a few contacts and it would take a while to go through the whole system. So, but what I want to show you, so let me go back to leads here and show you. This would be an actual lead. So usually if I want to see the scores, I will actually go to notes like this, and I can scroll up a little bit because it's always right above notes. And I can see that he has a negative score and a positive score for a total of 5. So even though, now I've already run rules for leads, and so this is where it would display. But I can also see, click on info here to go to the top of the screen and see that that same total score of 5 is also at the top of the screen. But you don't have to run rules all the time to stay up to date. For instance, if I want to fill in an industry for him, so if I just come here and click on industry and he is a manufacturing, let me just try it. It's easier just to type it and it'll pull up some things. He's a manufacturing. When I click save, notice that the score is going to change. So manufacturing was a good area for me, so it gave it 10 points. So it increased his score by that much. So you can see that it's kind of easy. It's always going to be interactive, and I'm always going to see what's going on. So let me just click out to leads. Oh, I can't see it here. So let me go back to my presentation for a second because I want to move to that next. So we talked about you select a field, you choose the criteria, and you add. You can add multiple values. This is a really good thing to do for pick list values, and add the scores. And then continue to add more, even subtracting things, and run the rules. It's good to know that on the contacts, we talked about how these display at the bottom of each record. When you convert a lead into a contact, it does create another score field on the contact record. And so that when a lead is converted, his original lead score will be here. Keep in mind that when you do convert, the scores, whatever scores we set up for the lead, if you want the exact same rules, you have to reset it up in contacts. But I don't think that you would want the exact same rules. I think that there are different values that you're going to be looking for in the contact record. So this is what I wanted to get to. So once you've added scores, I like to add them to the view. So I'm just going to tab back here and go to this view. So any view that you have that you use, like I've got one here, so I'm going to click the edit button when I point to it. And you can add which fields here that are going to display. So I'm just going to type S score over here. Once I type score, it shows me all of the possible things that might be there. So I might say, okay, I want to display the positive score and the negative score, maybe the total score, I'll put it right there. I'll come back and pick these up later. These will be scores when we work to that part of the system. So I'm going to click save. So now I have the scores, so I can sort in descending order, so I can see that this is my best one. You do want to pay attention to any negative scores you have because you know, there might be a flag there that you need to be aware of. So like -5, I'm pretty sure that came from his AOL.email address, but you can do whatever you like there. So just keep in mind that scores are run. Now, if I don't like this, that was the biggest thing I found out before, is that I ran the rules the first time, and you keep it, you don't worry. The first time you run the rules, you're never going to like what you see. So you're going to have to go back and tweak it, but it's not a big deal. You just tweak, make some changes, and run the criteria again, because it's always going to update. And after that, any changes that you make are instantaneous. Not a big deal. After you've looked at it, re-review your leads. Did your top, particularly in deals or in contacts, did your top prospects have the top scores? And if they didn't, if you had somebody with a really big score, why didn't they convert? And you need to kind of think through that. Why didn't they convert? And start to keep track of that. Look for more trends. What did you miss? So you can see this is kind of a long-term process, but I find that it really makes you know a lot more about your business and what leads to a sale. Okay, so we've just been talking about field values and scores. Now we can talk about the touch point values. So the touch point scores are, we talked about the fields, but below that, there are all of these values here. So it requires that you have an integration. You may or may not see all of these fields when you set it up. For instance, if you don't have your email integrated, you won't see this. We have our phone system integrated, which I love. You'll have the ability to integrate some phone points. The Zoho survey, Zoho campaigns, Facebook and Twitter, all of these have to be integrated. They're not hard to do. Everything is done through the setup menu. Like here, the emails, if you've got a POP or IMAP, it goes there, and once you Gmail goes there, and Outlook is here. Once you've integrated your email, then you have the option to have email scores. You can also integrate Zoho Survey, which is under this extension, and Facebook and Twitter, which is, of course, social, and phones, which are also under they're the same as Outlook. Zoho Campaigns is connected from the Campaigns app side, but either way, it's still going to give you the ability to have those touch points. So the touch points might look like this. The email touch points, not the campaigns, but just email. You can say, did they open, did they click, did it bounce, have minus. Notice how Zoho always starts off with 10 points as a default. We're going to look at changing that. The phone call score, I actually wish that one's a little bit more fleshed out, and hopefully it will be. Right now the only option is, did you miss a call? And you get subtract 10 points. I don't know that I agree with subtract. Sometimes, at least if I miss the call, I know that they were interested. And I'd like to know more how many times I connected with them. So did you send them a survey? If somebody takes the time to send a survey, I'm definitely giving them 10 points. And then, of course, Zoho campaigns, do they open or click or bounce, those kinds of things. In Facebook, I don't think I'm big enough for people to talk about me on Facebook or on Twitter, but if you are, and it's very handy to give the fields. Again, this is going to be your total score right here with your touch point scores over here at the right. Keep in mind that touch point scores are not available for deals and accounts, because if you think about it, there are no emails really for deals and accounts. All emails belong to a contact or account. So you'll see this section. Now right now it shows values, but in the deal and the account module, if you set up scores, they'll all show as 0. So let's just say that we want to add touch points because we think those are also important for the business. I suggest that you add one touch point at a time. So like go maybe add email. Don't try and add them all at once because it's too hard to evaluate what really is making an important step, important impact on your stuff. So I might say instead of adding these, for instance, I changed it. I don't really, it's not as important for me. It doesn't work for me whether they opened or not. So I don't even count that as a score. I only count, did they click on something that I sent them? Of course, if they bounce, that's a real problem. That's a minus 10 point. And if I have an incoming email straight from them, it's just 1 point. So it might do something like that. So same thing with campaigns, Zoho campaigns. I send a lot of campaigns to my clients. I send marketing things. I send tips out. So to me, the open is not as relevant. I guess it's important whether they clicked or not. Again, if it bounces, I want to know that. So I'm going to change those things. But at any rate, after you've added one touch point rule, then run the rules again. And then add the touch point scores to the views. Okay, that's not a big deal. So if I'm just going to go back here, remember we added scores here just a second ago. It's not a big deal. Just, again, click Edit, look for Score, and then just pull over touch point score, positive score, negative score. And this visitor score is from Sales IQ, which I could add as well. But so now I have all of the scores on here, so I can see it looks like Bill has a good high touch point score. So that means he's engaged, so that would be really great as well. So let me go back. So make sure you add them to the views, especially to your leads view, because that's where you want to evaluate how things are going. Again, there's your list of where you're seeing your scores. I think it's important to continue to test and evaluate because things change. Your business changes. You learn more about your business. But I think why doing this is that you need to figure this out right here. Are they a good fit for you? Do they match the fields values that you have set aside? Are they working with you? Are they talking with you? Are they calling you? Something like that. So keep that in mind. So the idea would be is once you set up these scores, it'll help you prioritize. Again, back to that original reason for why would you set up scores. You want to set them up so that you can prioritize because you don't have enough time. If you've got a lot of leads, you don't have time to follow up on them. So you need to be able to prioritize them. You need to have, what you're looking for is that ideal client. High score, high field values, they're actively engaged, and what you're looking for is this thing in the middle, this sweet spot. Are they ready to decide? Are they kind of worth pursuing? Again, like I said, keep in mind the rules do not transfer from leads to contacts or accounts. So once you set it up in leads, if you want something similar, you have to reset them up in contacts or accounts, which is not a big deal. The lead score does convert. There's an extra field that supports it. Pay attention to negative scores. Particularly, the negative scores are going to show you where records have bounced. So actually, if I have, for instance, let me just go back to my actual list. So I might want to, when I'm creating a list, right now I just have a fake value here so that I can only show test records, not real records. So what I might do though is say if email, so when they bounce, I might take out the email. So if I say if email is empty, take it out of the list because I don't want to call on them. Their email's bounced or they're not a good lead for me. So I can't change the value. I can't change the value to say take that down from 50 to 0 just because their email bounced. I think I did that wrong. Let me go back and look. Okay, I want to say their email is not empty. Sorry, picked that wrong because I only want people that have email values in there. That's better. So now I have only people that actually have actual emails that are going to work for us. So there's lots of ways that you can get around the bounce, but you I want to go back and look at why does that have a negative score? Well, there might be some good reasons for it, but still pay attention to it. If you wanted to delete a criteria, you figure out that a criteria doesn't work. Let me go back to that for a second. To go back into criteria, let's see right here. So if I have a criteria that I think is not relevant anymore, then I can just easily go to it and delete it. Just point to it and figure it out and delete it. you can see I've got my different ones set up here. So it's not hard to change the criteria. You just want to remember that after you've changed the criteria, you want to click on the run rules at the top of the score, at the top of the lead scores. And I noticed that somebody asked about touch points. Touch points is not really a word that's there. It's just a word that I'm using. So when I go back and look at, for instance, let me go back to looking up leads. When I go to set up scoring rules, there are, let me go to contacts. These are the contact fields. So there are just the basic fields that you have, and then everything below that are touch points, are ways that we have touched, we've talked to each other or engaged each other. So they could be engagement points. It's just a word that I picked. There's no word touch point anywhere in the system. You should receive a link to the recording in the next few days, and I will give you a link to the worksheet. I've got the worksheet I like to use because it makes it easier for me to keep track of different things, because I want to do it not only for leads and contacts and deals and accounts, but also have some general idea at the top of what kinds of things we need to do and keep in mind. So that'll be included as a PDF for you in the attachments. Obviously, if you need help, we would be glad to give us a shout, either by calling us on our direct line, or you can email me, Susan at zcrmhelp.com. But if you want to do it yourself, it's easy. We have actually a book on Amazon. It's called the Zoho CRM Quick Study Guide. It happens to be the only book on Zoho CRM on the market. You'll see some other books out there like Zoho for Dummies, but those are all about 6 to 10 years old and don't include anything about CRM. This includes all the most recent things. In fact, Zoho is spending a lot of time keeping me busy because trying to keep up with what's all the new things that they're adding. You can get it from Amazon, or you can get it from our website as well. Again, if you need anything, give us a shout, but I think probably I'll see if there's any questions that haven't been answered. Go through those really quickly. It is, I mean, I guess there's several things about recording. Yes, it will be recorded. It has been recorded and it will be distributed. The maximum score is whatever you make it. If you've got 25 rules and everything is 10, theoretically you could have a maximum score of 250. I think that would be a really bad way to do it. You want to, I think, really evaluate which things really are 10 and which things are really are 1. I think by playing that game and saying, okay, look, all of these, you can only add them up to, let's say, 150 out of 250, or let's say 100 out of 250. So if everybody got something filled out in every area, how would you really rank some of these scores, and kind of think about it's kind of a ratio kind of thing. When you run the scores, it runs for all of the records. You can't run it for a specific subset or like a view. So when you're running it, you say run rules on contacts, it's going to run it for all contacts. That's why I didn't run it for this demo, because it would take a really long time, because I have like way too many. Yes, it should work. The emails, the touch point should work with POP3 setup. It should work with any email as long as it's recording emails inside of your CRM. I'm not sure what you mean by how can contact leads be removed from the views. Oh, contacted. Oh, contacted leads. Oh, that was easy. There are, I actually agree with you on what you just asked, is usually when I set up for clients, we have several things, like I'll have today's leads, but we'll also have all open leads. Let's see, there should be one like true. I have a true open because I have fake ones in here. but you can have open leads, and the way you would do that is just by saying and status doesn't contain. I say doesn't contain. Well, I have different ones. Doesn't contain lost, and it doesn't contain NWP stands for not worth pursuing. It's not a good client for us, and maybe even MIA, which is missing in action. But these are our lead statuses, and so you can create your own lead statuses. I hope you will, and then that's how you would filter out. And I'm sorry I don't have an example for a moving company, but moving companies, just kind of think through why do people hire you, and how many trucks would it take, and how much square foot do they need, and do they need insurance? I don't know. There's lots of things that will contribute to how well you do. Where you go to run scoring rules. No, you can't roll back scoring rules. Once you've applied the scoring rules, they're applied. But keep in mind, you can just update something, and it'll automatically make it update it. So when you're looking at a list of rules, of course, I have a lot of really old data in my database as well. And when you do the views, you can say, you can eliminate people that haven't been contacted. I mean, because they're not going to have any values on it, then it's like they're not going to have very high scores either, because I didn't record on them. So you can easily focus on it. You can create your views to say anything where it hasn't been created or edited in the last 2 years as well. There's lots of ways to limit the other things. Yeah, any leads or contacts that can be imported through the website, and as long as they match the score values, they'll be updated. Oh, thank you. Alexander said he just got my book. Hope it works. Yes, reports can be used instead of views. Reports are actually a really good way. I use actually reports quite a bit, because once you have a report, that was the, let's say, lead status. You got to spell it right, though. There's a sales by industry and a sales by lead source. I mean, I'm going to go up to all reports here, or maybe say lead reports. Once you've got a report, let's say leads by industry, once you have created a report like this, then the next thing you really want to do is create a chart. I'm going to say, I like the horizontal charts, and click Save. So see, you've got a chart like this. It works really great. Now notice what I can do. I can add to the dashboard, and I can say add it to my lead dashboard, and click Add. So I really use dashboards a lot, because when I create the reports, then I can go to my leads dashboard and look at the different things of how things are converting. There's my leads by industry. It's a really great way to evaluate how things are going in your system. No, the scoring of an account cannot be based on the sum of the value of all one sales, except that there is a way, if you have the enterprise version, you can create, in fact, we've done it. We have a custom field. Let me see if I can show you. We created a custom function so that it would total up potentials total. This totals up all of the potentials where the total is equal to closed won. So if you have that custom function, then you can if I could put something, a score based on that field value, because it's a calculated field value. Perfect scoring. Yeah, I don't know about the plans. That would be a Michael. Michael knows everything about Zoho. he might be able to answer the question about predictive scoring. I think you can get, you can do a lot of things here. It's to predict who's going to be buying your stuff, but on the other hand, you still have to, it does take a lot of work, and it'll take time, and don't plan to have it right away. Now, Zoho is doing a lot of reports that are predictive in nature. They're kind of moving that way because of the, darn, where are those reports? They're, I don't see them right now. Let me go to the dashboards because I know they're there. There's sales trend and things where they're kind of going something like that, sales trend follow-up, they've got those kinds of things which are moving toward the predictive nature. So no, I don't think you can set up different scoring for different divisions. It's going to really just be, so there's going to be fields that are relevant to different companies, different divisions. So for some divisions, that score will be a certain thing. So you have to split up your 25 rules among the divisions to make it work. Should one stress more or start with leads or potential? I think leads is a good way to start because that's most likely the one that people don't, they don't know as much about, or they have too many because they're getting stuff in from a website, and I think it makes you evaluate which ones are really good to follow up on. I mean, ideally you want to follow up on all of them, and if you've got the staff, that'd be great, but on the other hand, you want to really focus on, or have a way to focus on, which ones potentially or are strategically, or are going to be the best possible leads for you to follow up with. Samantha, that's a question to ask offline about what's the difference between those versions. It has to do with how many products are there. Oh no. Can leads with open tasks be removed from the view? To a certain extent, I think you probably can. So if you go, once you go here, if you've got a view that you like, you can say, you can do without an open activity and then apply the filter. And that would be, I think, kind of what you're looking for. If you can't buy, if for some reason Amazon doesn't let you buy the book for your country, you can go to our website and it will help you buy it there. It's zcrmhelp.com, and we do ship to more places than the Amazon does. It's the same price as Amazon has it. Actually, Oren, I'm not really sure. I think if you remove the rules, I don't think the scores go to 0. I guess you could, but eventually you can just take them off the view if you don't like them. But yeah, you can run them back to 0. But I would probably test one thing at a time. I don't think I would just take everything back to 0. Let's maybe start from 0 and then just slowly add all of the fields that you need to add. I don't know about the booking thing. I think that's probably something you'd have to ask a technician. Can you do a custom function adding up all the invoice totals? You can do it if you use the invoices thing inside of Zoho, but actually I use the Zoho Books. I'm in love with Zoho Books. I think it's an amazing integration with Zoho. So unfortunately, though, you can't do it. I don't know of a way to do it. There might be some way. I haven't looked at it. I don't think you can do that. But I think if you're using the Zoho invoices internally, the CRM invoices, yes, you could do a custom function that would do that. Oh, Tarek, I would love it if Zoho would have a common pick list value where fields could share a pick list, and if you change it in one, it changes it in all, but sadly not. So usually what I do is I just have a text you call it, a text a notepad thing that has all of my let's say industries in one area. And so then I just copy and paste. And one of the nice things that Zoho does do is that when you, let me just go back and look at, let's say go in leads. And if I want to update the industry here, here's my industry. So you notice there's an add options in bulk. I can click that and do manual entry, and then I can paste my list right in here. And one of the things they did, like in the past year or two, is that it won't duplicate anything in here. If it's already in here, it'll just overwrite it, but it'll pick up any extra ones. And that's a really great way to update. So it makes it a lot faster in updating your list. Just add options in bulk, manual entry, and then just paste it right there. But I just keep all of my pick lists in a notepad text file that I can copy and paste. Yeah, Dan, call me. We'd be glad to help you. Yes, I am sharing the scoring checklist. And I think that's probably pretty much everything. Let me go back. If anybody has, of course, any other questions, we'll probably be stopping since we've been on for an hour. You're welcome to email me at susan@zcrmhelp.com, and I can either answer or Gordon can help you. There's several of us that can help you with any of your questions to help you get the most out of Zoho. To buy the book, thanks for asking again. You can actually go to Amazon and type in Zoho CRM, and it'll come up. It's the only book out there. And or you can go to our website, zcrmhelp.com, and you can buy it there. If you want to do it in the UK, go to zcrmhelp.com and I think put it in there, and we can see about shipping it. It actually goes pretty fast. I've been really shocked at how fast it goes, how fast the shipping goes. All right, guys, thank you very much. Have a really, really great summer, and have a lot of fun with Zoho.